Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Press Pause, our sideshow, Channel Surf, and what this show actually is, it's American Gods, the recap. Boy, is that a mouthful, right? It's like 500 things, but American Gods, the recap, episode 5. Last episode, if you missed it, was we kind of covered 1 through 3 and really went into depth with episode 4. This episode, we're just covering episode 5. Yeah. I'm Matt Galvin, and I'm here with
Arun Dillon.
This episode, in general, we're going to find out is really just putting it all on the table. You find out a lot in this episode, so if you're not caught up right now with American Gods and you haven't watched this episode, stop right now because this is going to get spoiler heavy. This explains who characters are, what's the motivation, what's going on here. Like, everything is just literally thrown on the table in this episode. Okay. So the opening was pretty interesting this episode. You got kind of like a clay animation. I almost want to say like Tim Burton-esque. Right. I was watching this with my fiance and she was like, oh, it looks like something Tim Burton would do.
Kind of stop motion
style, which we learn it used to be a long, long time ago, a tribe that had a god. And what happened was the god kind of like sacrificed itself to help them, but then they stopped believing in the god. And once someone, this is the whole theme of this entire show, once someone stops believing in a god, saying their name, giving them power, they cease to exist. Right. Gods need to feed off the energy of people. So because the whole opening, this opening is basically explaining the rules of all these characters, is because this tribe doesn't believe in this god anymore and they don't pass it to generations, it's gone forever. It's dead.
We see them praying to this mammoth skull.
That's their god, yeah.
Right, and then when they finally kind of get killed off, the mammoth skull is just sitting by a tree, and then it just slowly dissolves into the ground, and it's no more. So.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And then now we jump back into our story, which is we actually jump immediately back where it's Laura Moon. You know, remember he goes into his hotel room, sees her in 3, then we go through a prequel of her in episode 4, and then it goes back to that again. So now we're finally at this part, which is her sitting on the bed waiting to talk to Shadow.
Yeah, right. And which actually kind of funny, his reaction towards all of it. He sees her there, and the first thing he does is throw a pillow at her
to see if she's real.
Right, that he's not hallucinating.
Because the first time he saw her was a dream.
Right. Right, he's having all these crazy hallucinations anyways in dreams, but he throws a pillow at her. When he finds out he's real, his reaction is even more funny, is that he's like, okay, whatever. It's not even anything to him, because that's not the craziest thing that he's seen so far.
Right, I think at first he is shocked, and then he goes immediately into rage mode. You know, it's just like, you cheated on me, you broke my heart, I loved you so much, you know.
But he's more angry than he is kind of scared, like, what the hell are you doing here? He's just pissed off, because he knows, okay, that's actually her coming back to life isn't ridiculous at all, considering everything else is happening to him.
Yeah.
And now he's completely enraged, and he starts yelling at her about all the things that she's done to him before.
He demands to know about her and his best friend, Dane Cook, and why she did it. And her response, I didn't really buy that it was 100% genuine. She kind of just went into, she didn't explain like, oh, I tried to wait, and then but it seems almost like she's making excuses. But again, I think it was more like, I was bored and I was going to kill myself. I needed a thrill. She doesn't say it like that, though. What she says is like, I tried to wait for you a year, and then I was grieving over cat. But when we saw that wasn't what happened. You know, the cat and the wine, that was just something for her to give her excuse to cheat.
She's kind of brutal in the way she goes about it. She tells him everything, gives him all the details, and he's just sitting there. You can see in his face how angry he is hearing this. But she gets explicit with everything that she says. He tells her about the time she dies, and she even says like she just wants to give him a great blowjob before they end it all.
Right,
and
a goodbye blowjob.
Right, exactly. And she's just pretty brutal about it, and just throws it right in his face, which makes me think that she doesn't really care about how he feels about it.
It's bizarre because, again, like we saw last episode, at first she didn't have a purpose or any meaning, and she didn't believe in anything. And then she died, and she was given this coin by Shadow, which was the leprechauns, which granted her her wish, and now she's alive. So she now believes in all this magic. It exists, and the purpose that she's given herself now is, oh, I do love Shadow, and I need to be with him. The sad part is, though, is Shadow doesn't reciprocate that.
Right.
He's changed his feelings because the shit he's seen now has not only changed him, but what she did to him has changed him.
Who would forgive her after everything that she did?
I mean, some people would, but it's just he doesn't feel the same. He's not the same person he was when it started, you know? A lot of people forgive people for cheating, but like with the best friend, you're right, it is a pretty harsh one. He's like changed now, but she's like like you said, flirting and trying to seduce him, and she's like trying to warm up her body, you know, gets in like water and stuff, and like she still has the gross like scars from the
arms and
the body.
chest,
yeah. So she is dead, and so it's just kind of like Shadow's kind of in shock.
She basically asks him if, kind of just puts it on the table and says like, "Are you still in love with me?"
Oh yeah.
Shadow tells her no.
Right before Mr. Wednesday knocks on the door, she does ask, yeah.
And Shadow just says no.
No. He leaves the ring, which is hers, and she's kind of now in shock as well, because it's like she thought her purpose to her in her head is like, oh, we'll just be together and be in love, and now it's starting to dawn on her like that's not really gonna be a reality. She's a zombie, she's a corpse, and also Shadow's changed and doesn't want that anymore, you know? What she wants now is like what he originally wanted, but now they've gone two different directions in life, and she doesn't necessarily, I mean, he doesn't necessarily want that.
Why doesn't Mr. Wednesday just come and recruit Laura also, and then he has this badass zombie lady on his team?
It's a good question, but maybe he doesn't need her because maybe she's not what he's looking for.
So there's something specifically about Shadow that he wants.
I would say so. Yeah, we know that Shadow. There's something about him. He's glowing, you know, like, and like she sees that as like her connection and bond him. But also an interesting thing that we didn't mention, which we're mentioning now, is when Shadow kisses her. Her heart starts to beat.
Right.
She starts to come back alive, which is pretty crazy.
Time for one of my theories.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I think Shadow...
We're going to do this every episode. It's like Aaron's theories.
Yeah. So here's my theory this week.
You're going to have to put text here. Aaron's theory.
I'm probably way off on this one, but I'm going to throw it out there.
Let's hear.
Maybe I completely missed something, but Shadow is the god that died in that stop motion section.
Oh, maybe. He's the bison?
Right.
Oh,
and that's why
good.
he keeps seeing it.
And he keeps seeing the bison in his dreams.
That's
It's
right.
not a bad theory. That's
not a
good.
spoiler, just a theory.
This is just a theory. Again, for those of you who don't remember the last episode, I read the book once a long time ago, and Aaron has never read the book, so any spoilers we're giving here is like, it's not accurate, because I barely remember it, and he hasn't read it. And then we cut to Mr. Wednesday.
Right. So this crow starts hopping down the hallway and knocks on the door with the beak, and Mr. Wednesday opens it up. It's like, oh, hey, buddy, I know you. And then he just starts talking to the crow.
Which, that was a funny scene, I thought, because it's like, we've now gone, you know, where the show quasi was like, you know, realistic, but had these sprinkles of weird, into like full weird, where it's like Mr. Wednesday is having a conversation with a crow.
And there's a spider that comes later on.
Yeah.
And he talks to the crow, kind of gives him some information about what's going on.
He's like, calm down.
Right,
yeah. Slow down. Yeah.
So this crow tells him, I mean, as much as
he's a spy, so he's seen that his dead wife is now
in Mr. Shadow's room.
Mr. Shadow, yeah.
Shadow's room.
Yeah.
And he warns him about it. So Mr. Wednesday right away
goes to the hotel room and is knocking and trying to get Shadow out of there so they could talk about stuff, you know, because he knows, you know, this is bad news, and he doesn't want her to detour Mr. Wednesday's plans. He needs Shadow. We don't know what for yet, but he needs Shadow and to do his plan, and he doesn't want the wife to steal Shadow away. Like, he's gonna fall in love, so he's like, oh, I'm gonna get him out and talk to him. But before that happens, the police show up and arrest them for the bank robbery that we saw. The interesting thing about this section is they both, for the first time, Mr. Wednesday, he starts with his act where he's just kind of like playing the goofy.
Like he has an Alzheimer's, old man doesn't remember.
But at a certain point, he's like, they're not going to believe what I said anyway, and he literally starts telling them the truth. Yeah, he's like, Nancy works for me, the leprechaun's an idiot, he works for me, I'm an old god, there's these new gods. He starts literally explaining the plot, not only to this, but just snippets. We still don't know his grand plan, but we know that, like, that guy with the hammer was death.
The cop, he tells everything too, and the cops are sitting there like whatever, which I really like the fact that I use this scene because it lets us kind of recap everything that we just saw.
Right,
in the last 4 ridiculous episodes.
Yeah.
And ridiculous, I mean good.
He means ridiculous, like out there, like kind of crazy. Like you're starting to actually ground this in like, what does all this mean? It's coming together now. On the other side, Shadow's being interviewed by a detective who just wants to know, like, okay, this isn't making sense. There's, you know, like, I get that, like, you guys did it. We have the proof that brought you here to us. Like, but the weird thing is it came in through a fax, and they have like satellite photos of you, you know, like, so who is this, you know, what is the deal with this? And I'm willing to forgive this
if you tell me
what's going on. But Shadow kind of stays true to Mr. Wednesday. He's very loyal.
She's basically more interested in who sent that, because she says normally the tips that we get is, I saw this murderer in the drive-thru of a Carl's Jr., but this one came in through a fax with all these details.
Which has been disconnected for years, yeah.
Right. And she wants to know exactly what Mr. Wednesday's up against, what Shadow's up against, because whoever can get all that information obviously is powerful.
Very powerful, right? Yeah. So that's why I said it's like a satellite image.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wednesday kind of reveals something later on. He says that that's a God's eye view of what happened, which is, an interesting comment that he just dropped in there. It doesn't really go into much more detail, so I'm sure that will come back into play later on. But she knows that this person's powerful, and Shadow starts to realize, like, holy shit, like, what did I get myself into?
Right. I think he kind of already knew that, but he definitely is now confirmed that he's way over his head. You know?
This is maybe a little bit more than he thought it was going to be.
Right. As they're being interrogated, and we find out about the top-down God view thing, we cut then to a club. And it's
Technical Boy.
Technical Boy, the guy in the limo that lynched Shadow, and also has the limo and VR.
The virtual reality goggle thing. Right?
He comes out, and then he realizes that all the lights are off. Someone more powerful than him is shutting everything down, and boom, he's teleported into the limo where there sits
David Bowie.
David Bowie, who is again played by Gillian Anderson. So let me just ask you, as someone who hasn't read the book, do you have any idea who she represents or what she is now?
I think she has something to do with the media, something along those lines, because we saw her in the TV as
Right,
Lucy.
She was Lucy, and now she's Bowie.
Now she's Bowie, so there's music, and then later on we see her as Marilyn Monroe. So she's definitely always taking the form of someone who's in popular media that we know.
Right. Okay. So and then
just a theory.
No, but it's pretty spot on. I think it's pretty much revealed in this, so we can talk about that. So then they have a conversation. Mr. World, who we find out is the leader of basically these two. He's the powerful one. Is not happy with how this kid, who's kind of arrogant, and bratty, and he's like one of the newest gods, right?
Technical Boy.
Technical Boy, right? He basically is being scolded because he handled this really wrong. He's the newest of the gods, and he is the god of technology. Right. Like Aaron guessed, is the other basically is the god of, like, I want to say media and television and everything. So these are the new gods. These are who we pray to nowadays, basically, is our phones, the internet, I'm taking, again, I forgot, so again, this isn't a big spoiler, but Mr. World seems to be the internet, is what I'm guessing, is he controls the world, satellites, and everything. I could be wrong about that. I forgot. I haven't read the book in years.
But we'll find out.
But basically, we know these are the new gods that we pray to now. We don't pray, to Odin and all these other Norse mythology, Greek gods.
Which is sad, because Odin is such a badass, and Ares is such a badass.
Right.
And the god is cool too.
But I mean...
But now we're praying to this little kid.
VR limos.
We're playing to Lucy and some kid with a limo, right?
Right, exactly. But they're super powerful.
Shame on all of us.
So, and the reason why they're super powerful is, like the beginning of this episode said, is we all believe in these things now. We believe in the television. We believe in the internet. We believe in them hardcore.
And that's why they're so powerful.
They're stronger than these old gods. And clearly now we know that Mr. Wednesday is, he's an old god, and it's going to be revealed. We'll talk about this in the next scene, so we're not going to talk about it right here. But this is basically what's happening. These old gods are not as powerful anymore. Mr. Wednesday, we know, is recruiting them. And then these new gods are basically they're not really at war, but they know that these old gods, especially Mr. Wednesday, is not happy about them taking,
They kind of want to regain their power.
Exactly. Okay, so now he has to say he's sorry to Shadow and things. We cut back to the police station. Right. Mr. Wednesday and Shadow are putting together because neither one of them are talking. They're like, fine, talk to each other. The cops then they can watch in their little window. Shadow is like, we're fucked, what's going on. Mr. Wednesday uses Mr. Nancy, who we now know is definitely on Mr. Wednesday's team, to undo his cuffs. And
as a spider, not as a spider.
Person. Yeah, as a spider.
The spider's crawling around, unlocking it.
And then things start going crazy.
Right.
But basically, everything goes dark and is frozen. Something is coming.
We hear all kinds of noise going on. Something crazy's happening outside. And Mr. Wednesday's like, oh shit, it's coming.
Don't talk, don't look at them, don't face them, is what Mr. Wednesday says to Shadow. The door opens, and it is...
Marilyn Monroe.
And she flies in, just like hovers.
She's just floating in.
Yeah. Shadow, of course, is mind blown as again. This
He's
pretty
like,
much.
You're Lucy.
This whole episode, Shadow's mind is just like, Wah! He's just dying. You know, it's so much information to take in for one human. But everything is real. So she flies in and she basically says, "We did this. We pulled this. The reason why you're in the police and who gave them facts is we've been watching your moves. We know what you're trying to do."
Yep.
And then my boss is gonna come in. But before her boss comes in, we cut back to the hotel with Laura and the leprechaun.
Laura's still in the bathtub trying to figure out what the hell's going on
with her life in the future, yeah.
And the leprechaun comes in, what's his name, Mad Sweeney?
Mad Sweeney.
So he comes bursting into the
he wants his coin,
and he wants his coin, which is inside of Laura. I was gonna say Sarah, like So he's inside
Laura, Sarah.
He's inside of her body. He's just saying, "I want the coin back." And she kind of starts to figure out that he can't just take it from her. She has to give it to him willingly.
And she knows also that this coin is the only thing holding her together and giving her life. So she's not giving this coin back. He offers her a bunch of gold because he's a leprechaun. He could just literally make gold out of thin air. And she's just like, no. And not only does this coin give her life, it gives her super strength. Again, we witness her just like flick him like Superman, and he just like flies against this wall,
smashes his arm against the wall. And she thought Shadow's the one who gave him, because she tells him in the beginning of this that, "Oh, thank you for my gift."
Yeah.
And he's saying that, "Oh, I stole that from the leprechaun. He gave me the wrong one."
Well, again, it was revealed, like you said, that it has to be given. So because the leprechaun didn't know he gives Shadow the coin, it has to be freely given. He can't just take it from her. She has to give it to him. But they're both kind of fighting. He really wants his coin back because he's been having bad luck. Really bad luck lately, the leprechaun guy. And he then she's basically like, "You're never getting this coin back. I'm more badass than you," breaks it up. She also gets information from him, kind of like what's going on, who Mr. Wednesday is, his real name. And
he kind of coughs that up so easily. So I'm wondering where his loyalty lies with Mr. Wednesday.
He's definitely not 100%.
Because Shadow didn't break.
Yeah, but then he also says Shadow shouldn't trust this guy.
Right,
Mr. Wednesday is not totally good. Yeah. And he has his own ideas. And there's some terrible people after him, which we do find out is true. So she also says, "You're never getting this coin back," and then he counteracts and says, "Look, you think like, you know, this coin's gonna keep you alive? It's not. Eventually that skin's gonna fall off. You're gonna, you know, like you're laying in water, it's gonna like make the skin like, you know, even looser and stuff like that. And eventually she's just gonna be a skeleton, you know, walking around. She's alive, but the body's just a vessel. Like eventually all this like physical stuff will fall off, and she's literally just gonna be a skeleton.
Because she's still a rotting corpse just walking.
Yeah, it's like the coin has her like soul, but it's like she's not alive. She's basically a zombie. And so he's like, "I'm just gonna pluck it out of you." And then he gets in a fight with her, but then before that can go anywhere, she acts like she's dead because she actually sees drowning, and then he's like, "She's not dead."
Yeah, he's
she
like
fakes
choking her in the water. The police come bursting because they hear all the ruckus. They arrest him, and he's like, "She's not dead."
But really, she's faking it like she's a corpse.
But then the police end up taking her body.
Right, so they take her corpse because they think she's dead. This is a way for her to avoid going to prison and revealing that a dead person is back alive. So she goes as a corpse to the morgue. Cut back to Marilyn Monroe, who again is like the media god, and then she brings in her boss, who we see is very cool, Crispin Glover from Back to the Future. Right. Super weird. Crispin Glover. And he is Mr. World, the main bad guy of the New Gods. And this is kind of where it's revealed that Mr. Wednesday is actually Odin. And so the reason why he's so mad is because no one believes in him anymore. But Mr. World respects him. He sees him as like, you were the gods that predated us, you know, before people prayed to us and gave us these powers, they believed in you. I don't want to get rid of you. I can give you, we can rebrand you.
He acknowledges that Mr. Wednesday still is very powerful, and he's well respected in the God community.
In the God community, yeah. And then he shows them a very cool presentation where they want to rebrand him as
a nuclear bomb
to blow up North Korea.
Right.
So they're going to call it Odin and rain down fire. So then he'll be saying, because what gives gods power is people saying their names. He's like, everyone will be saying your name, Odin, because this missile will be your name. And so everyone everyone around the world. We'll just rebrand you. You get all this power. He's like, let's work together. Your answer to me, I'm the top boss, but still, I'll get you up there as long as you fall in line. Mr. Wednesday's not too happy with this. He says, I work alone. I don't want to be rebranded. I'm not something that, like, you know, he gives an analogy about a pearl and sand, and he's just like, I'm not something, you know, that can be like that. You want to get smooth it all out, and I'm not that. I'm rough and I'm raw, and I want to stay that way. I'm not going to be like some shiny metal thing. I'm a god, and I want to, you know, give back to the people. And then
likes being that rugged old god. He doesn't want to be as flashy as Marilyn Monroe.
He doesn't want to be a missile.
Boy, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want to be a missile. He wants to be who he is.
Right.
And he basically declines the offer. Mr. World brings in a technical boy who is forced to apologize to Shadow for lynching him. And in a funny scene, he says, you know, like, oh, me lynching a black person, that's terrible in taste. There's so much negativity in the world, I don't want to do that. I thought that was pretty funny. He apologizes, and then Mr. World offers Shadow to beat the crap out of him. Shadow declines, and then they basically leave with this offer on the table. Technology Boy doesn't understand why, because he's the youngest god. He's like, why, you have him? Why let him go? Like, let's not be Bond villains and explain our plots, and then just, let's kill him. And Mr. World's like, no, let's give him a chance. I gave him an offer. Mr. World thinks he's so powerful, he's not worried about Mr. Wednesday, this old god. He's like, whatever, this guy's not gonna do anything. He's either gonna join or die, but this is the peace offering. Let him think on it, and then I'm just gonna back off, kind of thing. And then Marilyn Monroe basically blows him a kiss, which busts
his teeth out.
Which again scares Shadow. These people are so powerful that they can hurt you with blowing a kiss. And with Shadow's reaction when he sees the teeth on the table is like, holy crap, like these people can kill me with a blink. Again, this isn't a huge spoiler. I think it's kind of been little hints are shown. Shadow is probably something more, so he just doesn't know that yet, though. The only person that's not aware of the true potential of Shadow is Shadow. Right. Everyone else
seems to kind of know that there's something to him.
Something to him, something amazing, something special about him.
And Mr. World kind of goes in all these details of Shadow's life, and that's another thing Shadow gets freaked out by.
Yeah.
How does this guy know everything about me?
Because Mr. Wednesday did say, don't say a word to this guy or he'll read you. And as soon as he says that, it seems like he knows everything. Yeah. Because he can search. I think he really is the Again, I could be wrong about this. I haven't read the book in a long time.
So the new gods, they end up leaving. They say, we're going to let you think about, you know, the offer that we made you. They head out, and then Shadow and Mr. Wednesday, they get up, they walk to the police station, and they see the whole place is a mess. They see what the new gods did to this place. They just
killed everyone.
All the cops. And
gruesomely, like the two cops that they just talked to are just like, basically like some sort of tree has gone through this girl. Yeah.
And then we see that one of the cops who's sitting on a wooden chair, the chair kind of has an eye, and it opens its eye.
Yeah, and then it basically like turns into a tree monster, and then starts chasing them, like Evil Dead style. It's like,
yeah, this tree grows through the police station, and they're kind of saying, "What the hell's going on?"
Now, the interesting, I don't know who the tree god is, but I would imagine that's probably an old god, right? So then maybe this is an old god that's joined forces on the new god side, like the Mr. World has recruited, because it looked like, to me like a wood tree god. It's probably an old god, right?
But the god of death, the one with the hammer from episode 2 and 3. He wasn't really on Mr. Wednesday's side, but he was an old god, wasn't on Mr. Wednesday's side.
He's on neither side right now.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe the tree might be the same thing, because even though the tree was kind of attacking them, the hammer guy, he was wanting to kill Shadow. He made that deal to kill Shadow, and he didn't want to go with Mr. Wednesday, so...
For sure the tree works for them, though. Yeah.
For the new gods?
For the new guys, yeah. It's definitely not just there by coincidence at the same time as the other new guys.
So not someone that Mr. Wednesday is going to try to go and turn to his side.
No, this god, whoever this god is, I'm just saying, it didn't look like a new god for me, but for sure it works for Mr. World. Like, it was the thing that killed everything, that's why the police station went quiet for the new god to come in. It wasn't like a coincidence at the same time. But I'm just saying, I don't know who that god is, so I would assume it's an old god that now works for Mr. World. So he's recruiting everyone. And again, I think this is like a thing where, like, what Odin is afraid of is Mr. World's deal, while good, keeping them alive, people will say Odin's name. It's not what he wants, because it doesn't give them as much power as these new gods will still have.
Right.
Because the belief system is still just like limited, because it's just people calling him a missile now, not praying to him as much, and so it's not going to give him as much power. And so Odin wants to be as strong as he wants people. He wants people bowing. He wants to be a real god, you know. And that's the deal that some of these older gods, they're just dying anyways. they're staying in America because, you know, it's a great place to live, but it's shitty because it's like no one believes in them, so they've lost a lot of their strength. They're aging and stuff. That one god, for example, that we see from earlier episodes, the woman that sucks people literally into her vagina, she's like an old god that the goddess that people used to pray to and things, and now the only way she can get that is by having sex with people and making them say their name, and that keeps her alive, but that's just enough to keep her alive.
Yeah, we haven't seen her in a while. She hasn't been there since the second episode.
Yeah, they gave her little flashes, but we haven't seen too much of her. Obviously, all these gods are coming into play, and again, we don't know how many seasons this show's going to be, because it's moving,
is
but
there
at a
more
slower
that
pace.
we haven't seen yet?
The more gods? Many, yeah. I mean, there's every god that's ever existed.
God possible.
Yeah, every god possible.
The god of Star Wars, George Lucas.
Well, I think that one would be grouped maybe as the media one. Like, she can take form probably as George Lucas, the Gillian Anderson character. There's been millions of gods. You know, every different tribe that has had a god, every different religion that has had a god, you know, or just things we worship and pray to, because we saw it doesn't have to necessarily be Jesus. It can be something that just we look at as like that.
The internet.
The internet or technologies.
Which is interesting. That another reason why Mr. Wednesday doesn't want to take this deal is because if he is, you know, this nuclear bomb and everyone's speaking his name again, who's the one who's going to be giving that information to everybody? The media. So that would make her more powerful.
Right, exactly. But now we know kind of the players, and we know that Shadow's in way above his head. Not only is his dead wife back, but he's dealing with this war, which he wants nothing to be a part of. Right. But for some reason, who knows why, Shadow really sticks with Mr. Wednesday. I mean, over his own dead wife, he chooses to now, it seems like, run, you know, with Wednesday, you know?
Well, Mr. Wednesday was the first person who came to him after he got out of prison and showed that he cares about him.
Right.
So he kind of has this sense of loyalty. Plus, who wouldn't want to follow Odin? He's awesome.
He's pretty cool, but he doesn't, I don't know if, I mean, well, Shadow did see the presentation.
Right. So
has he put it together yet? I guess we're gonna have to wait and see next episode. So the tree chases them out of the thing. As this is happening, the cops drive up with the leprechaun, and then they go in, they get killed by the tree monster, and he breaks out, and again, because his luck's so bad, he literally, you know, hits his crotch and kind of like a cheesy
on the door,
on a cheesy joke.
The guy's what do you call him? The coroner.
Yeah.
Is on the computer, and he
seems a little rapey though. I think he was
looking at pigs or something weird. Yeah.
I think he was gonna rape the corpse.
No, I think they hinted on something like that, but they didn't really go through with it. So he's going, you know, he goes through in the morgue, and he sees that one of the doors, I don't know what you would call those things. One of the doors is smashing, and out comes Laura because she was put
She's
there.
in one of the slabs, you know, with the dead bodies.
And then I didn't really get the significance. She grabbed a bag that said Jane Doe and just put on that person's clothes. Like, what was the significance?
So she kicks open the door because she was playing like she was a corpse. Jane Doe means it's a body that they have found that doesn't haven't identified. So I believe she's just that was where the clothes that she had. So she's just picking up her clothes.
Okay, and then it ends right there.
Then it ends right there. So she's back into the fray as well.
So what's interesting is that she obviously, after hearing what happened after hearing the information from Matt Sweeney about who Mr. Wednesday is and what Shadow's doing, and she sees the cops take them away, so she obviously has the perfect way into the jail. So now we know that she's kind of going after them too.
Yeah, totally. And she still has that guiding light too to find them. So definitely, like the last episode, this was really revealing, and the dynamics have all kind of changed. You know, everything's changed now. It's like we now have a clear understanding of the war that's going on. We don't know exactly what Odin's plan is, but we know he's recruiting old gods to go against, maybe fight these new gods, but we don't even know if he wants to fight. He's just amassing people and wants them to meet there.
So I kind of get this sense that there's also someone else that he's trying to go against. Because now, originally, they kind of set it up to where Odin Mr. Wednesday, this guy, is recruiting these old gods to fight the new gods. That's because of where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
But now that we see the new gods are there, they're like, well, we're not fighting you, and we want to make a deal with you. I'm kind of thinking there's a third party here somewhere.
You think there's like a third party?
There's a third party somewhere that isn't necessarily a new god or an old god, and you know.
Maybe, yeah. If so, we haven't really seen anything about them yet, but that's definitely a possibility.
Because after this episode, we see how the new gods, they're kind of, I don't want to say friendly, but they're like, you know, come on, work with us, we'll work together.
Well, I think instead of going to war, they're just like work for us. You know, like, I think it's easier to offer like an olive branch.
I don't know. I don't see Mr. World as being like the big bad villain of this, you know, this series.
This series?
I'm thinking there's someone else there.
Maybe, yeah. But again, we're just have to wait and find out. Yeah. I think either at this point now you're on the American Gods train, like it's like you get what's going on, and you're just like, okay, so God's are real. Their name and believing in them gives them power. Technology and television are basically gods as well. You're either on board for this or you're like, this show is fucking weird.
Right. What's great about it is that you have, like you're saying, there's an infinite number of gods that even past the story that the book tells, there's so many other stories that could be told in this universe.
Right. The only thing I will say, and again, I'm not trying to be negative or be like too weird with this, but like the show kind of presents it like, so Laura starts as atheist, agnostic, doesn't believe in anything, which in reality is she's probably in the right, but in this world she's totally in the wrong. And because of that, she believes in nothing, she doesn't believe in magic, and she's depressed and bored and just like wants to commit suicide, which is not every atheist or agnostic, I can tell you, like via experience. She in this world basically doesn't believe in anything, and it gives her no purpose. All these other things turn out to be real, but the scary thing about that is if you think about that, they do show that like we can literally make Odin a missile to blow up North Korea and call it Odin. So like basically these wars and bombings and stuff are in fact gods. So the scary part of that is like, does this validate crazy people where they're just like, it's controversial, but like the Ariana Grande concert was from God because he hates girls dressing up as like sexual things, you know, like is that validating those horrible opinions? Now this is a show about leprechauns, so it's having fun with it all, but I'm saying if it's saying that every god is real and creates these horrific events, then isn't that validating these people who...
It does. So you have those extremists who do use violence to, you know, get their point. They say the message came from God.
God.
In this world, yes, that God exists.
And then in this world, it probably is from a God.
As terrible as it is, yeah.
And then agnostics and atheists are very wrong, and there are all these gods. So
is there a God of atheists?
There's a God of atheists.
An atheist God?
So, I don't know. That was just a weird nugget to think on where I thought of. I know that the show's not saying, obviously, that the terrible tragedy with that Ariana Grande thing was caused by gods.
Or any of these tragedies.
Or any of these tragedies. Any terrible thing that was done by, people and their religion. I'm not trying to say that American God is, like, saying that's okay. But I'm just saying, like, in this world, it is by gods. Yeah. It's a weird thing, like where it's like those crazy people are the ones in the right.
Well, it's not even from gods. It's the people who are praying to the God who made them real.
Yeah.
So it's them themselves who created this evil God who told them to do this.
Right, and that's a very good point. In this world, it's almost like gods and people, like people always see...
Well, if anything, humans are the more powerful ones here.
Almost, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's almost like a balance, Right. It's like, in our world, it's like people are always like, Jesus, the Lord and Savior, is giving me everything, I owe everything to Him. But in this world, it's almost like a mutual thing where it's like, if the people don't believe in the God ceases to exist.
Right.
So the energy...
We need Jesus as much as He needs us.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a balance of powers, which is pretty interesting. So again, some interesting things. And I don't mean to bring up anything negative or tragedies that recently happened. I don't mean to offend anyone. But that is just something that terrible people do say, this tragedy was caused by gods. And in this universe, I just thought that was super interesting that it is.
Which I'm sure they may explore something like that later on. So,
I mean, kind of. I mean, there's no joke that they picked the North Korea one because Trump currently is striking and hitting North Korea and has been talking about nuking them. So this is all relevant with what's going on. So it is, kind of even though it's a show about leprechauns and funny things and talking crows and zombies, it is of course saying stuff about our culture.
They have a bigger message though.
Right, our culture, our religions, our beliefs, and our faiths. And I just, in the eye of the show, what's been presented so far is pretty interesting in, how Laura is and then how everyone else is, I just thought that was an interesting thing to talk about.
In a way, we're kind of seeing, Laura's kind of representing the viewer. Like, this is how, a lot of people, even though a lot of people, we have faith in the gods that we believe in, at the same time, we don't know for sure, and we're seeing her discover that this is real. We see Shadow discovering that this is real.
Right, yeah. And then the cool thing is, there's still a lot of mystery,
Even though there wasn't, they physically didn't move a lot. As far as the information revealed, they got through a ton of stuff fast.
Right, and they didn't give us any really new information. They just explained the information we had.
Yeah, they
very
reinforced
simply.
everything we had already seen.
Right, like this is what this meant. This is what this meant. This is who this is. This is where we're going.
Which they're moving pretty fast with these reveals. I was thinking it's going to be one of those Game of Thrones or Lost kind of things where we don't find out till the very end.
I like that though because this show is kind of so out there, that either you have to start
they have to because they're going to lose people.
They're going to lose people. Yeah. You have to bring the audience and explain stuff, and still for this show, it's still very weird and doesn't give you everything. But I was watching that scene with Marilyn Monroe and Mr. World, and I like it, but I'm like, if this is a very weird show, like either you're gonna just be like along for the ride and this is cool, or you're just gonna be like check it out, because I know a lot of people won't totally be like, okay, this is
they won't buy into it.
Yeah, this is so weird. Like it's like Marilyn Monroe flying and this guy like talking about nuking and naming it Odin, and they're just like, okay, I'm checking out. But I really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun take on all the different mythologies and gods and religions all wrapped in one thing. It's almost like the Marvel universe, but like the God universe, the cinematic God universe.
Satan's gonna get his own spin-off show now on Netflix.
He does. It's called Lucifer. It's on Fox. Please like and subscribe and comment below and let us know what you thought of this, and
if there's anything that we forgot to talk about.
Yeah, or missed. Did we miss any clues? Were we wrong about anything?
If we got something wrong, let us know how terrible we are.
Yeah, but in a nice, constructive way. And then please follow us on Facebook. We have a Twitter. We have a Patreon. And again, thanks for watching. Take it easy. See you next time.